This week's episode is sponsored by LoganArch. LoganArch is the place to go if you're looking for geeky accessories that also feel a little bit nostalgic. So Pokemon fans, there's definitely something for you. They have pins, apparel, bags, stickers, office goods, basically everything you could want. And it's all well-designed and nerdy and reminds you of your childhood faves, which is something I absolutely love. To start shopping, you can head to LoganArchChicago.com or follow them online at LoganArchChicago. Before this week's episode, we have a couple quick announcements for you. One, thank you so much to everyone who has contributed to our Patreon. That's actually the main way that we fund everything that happens at the Sartorial Geek right now. So that's how we pay for this podcast. That's how we keep the website going, and it helps support the magazine. So if you want to check out the cool rewards that we have and the 2 goals that we're super close to hitting, you can head to patreon.com/sartorialgeek. And we have a couple special people to thank this week. Thank you to Danielle, Molly, Jordan, Amanda, Jennifer, Caitlin, Tari, Amanda, and Margaret. We really, really appreciate you. We also have some fun events coming up. You can check out our calendar, but we'll be at Dragon Con, Rose City Comic Con, and New York Comic Con in the next couple months. So if you'll be any of those places, please come say hi. Hey, welcome to the Sartorial Geek podcast. I'm Jordan Ellis of Jordan Dene, and I am so excited. This interview has been like a year in the making. I am finally here talking to Paul Wynns. How are you?
I'm doing well, and thank you for your patience. And I'm a little ashamed to admit that I'm like 99% sure that all the problems last time were totally on my end. So I think it's all fixed now. So thanks for your patience.
Yeah, no, that's right. The problem with me having a podcast is that I only know how to do the talking part. So if any other thing goes wrong, I'm like, well, guess we're giving up until someone else fixes this. So
well, I'm normally
we figured it out.
No, me too. I mean, I'm normally, kind of a nerd about stuff, but the one blind spot that I have in my geekery is I am not an AV nerd. So once it wasn't working, that's it. I was out. I was done.
So totally. Yeah. No, we have had many a fallen interview due to technical problems. So maybe someday I'll learn enough, but not yet.
Well, with my, so if it helps you from last time, the dropouts that you were getting was because the microphone that I had was like a Bluetooth headset for a phone, and that is not good enough to record at the bit rate that your podcast app needs. So I had to go get a wired headset that was specifically for, it's not specifically for podcasting, but it's like a higher end, like voice over IP headset. So anyway, that's...
Well, it sounds great.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we solved that.
Excellent.
But yeah, it's been about a year because we met at San Diego Comic-Con last year. Mm-hmm. We met at a meetup, right?
It was actually your panel.
Oh, yes. Cool.
I think it was the one that you were moderating that was...
the building your own Themyscira networking panel. We actually... So this past year, because I'm slowly upgrading tech, I got the type of recorder that can actually plug into panel microphones. So we have that panel. We did it again this past year. We have it available to listen to now, which is very cool.
Nice.
So anyone who would like to hear us on that panel, you actually can. But yeah, we met there. That's right. Thank you for coming to that.
Yeah. And then somehow I think it was my wife, Sam, was chatting with you. You told us about the meetup that you were having afterwards that was at the hotel. Or at the hotel restaurant. And that's where we met and actually had the follow-on conversation about Kevin Workman Foundation and what we do. And that's what led to oh my goodness, we should have a chat on the podcast. So yeah.
Yeah. So tell everyone listening what this foundation is, because I think it's the coolest thing.
Yeah, well, thank you. So it's definitely a labor of love. So I am a nerd, and I'm a guy who always grew up loving anime. My level of nerdness is all about like giant robots that transform into aircraft, with a heavy dash of like tabletop gaming and Dungeons and Dragons and stuff.
Perfect.
And yeah. So that's kind of my specialization. But that was a thing that I did as a kid, and then I joined the military, and then went to go fly planes for the Navy. And during that time, lost touch with all of that because I got real busy doing things that, and I'm making air quotes here, that adults are supposed to do. You don't do that stuff after
Yep.
you're a kid. And I met this guy Kevin through friends of friends when I got stationed here in San Diego, while I was still in, and he was a person who was just a nerd through and through, and just shared that passion with everybody. And it was just kind of in hanging out with him and seeing how he still went to con. In fact, he had a booth at con. He loved certain artists, and so he would get in touch with them and he would promote them and he would share that with his friends. He would love this book or this movie, and he was always calling you up in the middle of the night being like, dude, you got to check this out, check out this movie, check out this artist. And so it kind of was contagious, and so got introduced through his friends of friends to a bunch of other nerds, got back into Comic-Con, and unfortunately, about kind of in the middle of this, after just a few years of knowing Kevin, he passed away at the age of 40, really kind of unexpectedly. And it was in like the wake of that, just talking to all of his friends, all of us searching for something to do to commemorate our dear friend, that we came up with the idea of, well, let's do what Kevin did, which was, go to con, search out new artists, share his passion about comic books and art and anime and all the rest with other people. Let's do that under the guise of a nonprofit and just keep doing the stuff that he used to do, with a few other things like educational programs and stuff. And we'll do this as the nonprofit. And so that's what we did, starting in back in 2012 is when we really started doing this in earnest, and started getting the paperwork together for the nonprofit and whatnot. And this con marks the 6th year in a row that we've sent an artist to con. Yeah, as part of our sponsored artist program. So we find an artist, we put out the word for nominations or self-nominations. We share those the best of those nominations with some friends of ours who are in the art industry that help us choose, and then from the money that we pull together from donations, that artist attends Comic-Con free of charge. Travel, lodging, that's all paid for. The booth fees, that's all paid for. Them and a guest of theirs, which is typically their significant other or helper to help them schlep all their stuff in. They just get the booth, whatever they're going to do with it, for outreach, for connecting with fans, for displaying their work, for selling stuff. It's their blank canvas to use however they want. So this year's artist was Peter Santamaria, also known as Attack Peter. He does these just incredible like Japanese woodcut style prints that are very traditional in the mechanics of how he makes them. But then all the subject matter is like Darth Vader as a samurai, or Spider-Man, or other Marvel superheroes. So it's just, his stuff is just cool. Incredible. Yeah, it's great. So yeah, and that's what we do. We've got an educational program too, where we bring comic book based art education to a local school here in San Diego that focuses 100% on homeless children. So it's a K through 12 school for homeless kids. And so we bring an art education program to them that's based on comic books and storytelling in a graphical format. And it's all just based on grassroots donations from, friends of Kevin, our friends of family. We do a little bit of online donations, but we're frankly having a hard time figuring out how to crack the code of, be a big scalable nonprofit. So for now, we're just sticking with the local community. So it's been a labor of love, and it's such a much more fun, at least for me, way to attend con now, to know that it's kind of for this greater good instead of trying to chase down the latest collectible or something, which is also fun.
So cool.
But I love it.
Yeah, every single thing about what you guys are doing is like everything I care about. I think
thanks.
It's so cool.
It's because from the heart.
Like I understand. I mean, basically the whole reason we have this podcast is a similar thing, like to signal boost other people. And I think the fact that you have found a way to create a nonprofit where you can essentially like give one of the biggest opportunities that you can have as a nerdy artist, a booth at San Diego Comic-Con, and like all the support that goes with it. I think that's like the most incredible thing ever.
And thank you. And I think that's what I think brought us together, because the reason why I found you guys was your panel. My friend Jamie Rage, the artist and jeweler extraordinaire, right? She was telling me about this panel that she was going to go to, and she described it. And once I sat through the panel and saw you and all the rest of the panelists describing what you were doing, like me and my wife Sam, who helps me with the nonprofit, like we turn and we look at each other and we're like, we have got to meet these guys. We have got to talk to them, because we're just aligned in what we're trying to do. So I'm super excited to make the meeting, or to continue the meeting via podcast.
And it's so cool too, because I mean, there are definitely a lot of nerdy organizations doing cool things, but because a lot of people are super grassroots, like you and I are both very grassroots, that means it's hard to find each other sometimes, even if we're looking, like, because it's just hard to let everyone know about you, even if you're doing something super cool. So I'm very glad we connected, because I think this is so awesome.
Yeah. And I think that, there's really a lot of opportunity for people who kind of feel similarly, right? They've got their cause, they've got their community that they want to support. I can say that it's a bit of a pain in the ass, with the bureaucracy to create a nonprofit, but
I know it's not easy, and I think it's on purpose a little bit not easy, so that you only have the people who are very serious doing it, but for the people who are very serious, it's not awesome. Yeah.
And that it's definitely, there's a lot of paperwork. There's a lot of having to navigate the tax code and everything. It's a little easier than it used to be, but I have to say it is so worth it. And it's something to the extent that I was on a panel with Little Fish Comics, and they're our friends that we partner with to provide the art education. They're another nonprofit based here in San Diego, run by Alonso Nunez, who is just fantastic art director and the lead who runs all of their educational programs. I encouraged all the kids that were in the audience there for that panel, like, if you feel strongly about something in your community, even if you're still in high school or whatever, go create a nonprofit, because it's totally something that is attainable. You can run it, you can gather money, you can do everything at the grassroots level, because it's so satisfying, and you can really move the needle in a community. Like, just a little bit of money and a little bit of passion goes a long way with something like this. And I totally feel that way in the pop art and Comic-Con community. And I love that Comic-Con is so supportive of communities that are doing that. So I encourage everybody, out there who's listening, if they feel passionately about something and they want to really kind of uplift a community of artists, or just help the creative communities that they love, totally a valid way to do it. All kinds of different ways, but creating a nonprofit and building a community around it is a very satisfying way to do it.
Yeah. And we were talking a little bit before we started recording. Obviously, everything that both you and I are doing would be a lot easier with a lot more funding, but we're still doing like really big and incredible things with a very, very grassroots effort, which I think is a big part. Like both of us, the communities that we're a part of or have built around what we're doing, like that's the reason why we're able to, because of the support from that. But it is really incredible. You don't have to be discouraged that you can't do something if you don't have, investors who are giving you tens of thousands or millions of dollars. You just have to be a little smarter about it, but it is still very possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, money solves a lot of problems, but it doesn't create the authenticity and the passion and the community that comes from really feeling strongly about your cause and finding that squad of people, that friends and family group that can help you out with it. Like there's no amount of money that you could throw at that would bring that passion and authenticity. And that's, I think, one of the things that there's a potential to kind of go down the wrong path as you look at conventions like Comic-Con and really all the rest of whether they're comic book based or sci-fi or anime or fantasy or whatever, they're all getting really big. Like I've noticed the fan community conventions are really blowing up all over the world. And it would be a mistake, I think, to look at those and see all the money and all of the, the Hollywood type treatment that they're starting to get, and to think that that's how they got big. I mean, how they got big was, a dozen nerds in a room really sharing what they love. That's where it all starts. So I'm very happy that Comic-Con still does so much to support like people like you and me getting a panel, right?
I was just thinking that, the fact that which they totally could, but the fact that they haven't like realized how many people are there for the celebrities and just changed their whole programming to like purely celebrity programming. It is incredible. You're right that that you and I can both be on panels, and then also something that like one of the tips that we talked about on our panel, and it's how we met, is going to the smaller community panels, because like the people are accessible. You can sit in the front row. Everyone sees everyone's face because there aren't millions of people in the audience. And that's something that's such a cool opportunity at such a huge con. That I agree. I think it's very cool that they still care about that, and they're not leaning completely into like pure celebrity and that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. And even on the other side of it, where like we were talking earlier about social media, right? And the path to getting exposure and to getting that funding could be that, you have an Instagram following that you monetize somehow, or that you motivate to donate or to fund a Kickstarter or whatever. That's one way if you've got hundreds of thousands or millions of followers. But one thing that was really telling as I was talking to this year's sponsored artist that KWF brought in, Peter Santa Maria, him and his wife, Gabby, like they are always hustling. They are always making connections. They are always thinking about the next step with the next publisher or the next artist or anybody else that they need to connect with or that they want to connect with, not just to have a connection and another follower, but to really kind of add value to their life, to collaborate, to do a project together, to brainstorm on stuff together, to have like a real authentic conversation about moving their art forward. And one of the things that was very telling out of that conversation with them is they both said, at the top of the pyramid of stuff that's the most important, that brings the most that brings the most exposure to them and has helped Peter's career the most, has been an in-person meeting, right? A direct face-to-face, few minutes of contact that is often at a convention, that is often at a place like Comic-Con. So there's just no replacement for it, right? There's no replacement for that little gaggle of people that always meets after the small panel that's like, hey, I'm based in San Diego. Where are you? Oh, you're in New York. Oh, let's have a conversation. Let's get on a podcast. I'll email you and we'll think about what we're going to do for this or that. That's like where the magic happens right there.
And I think that a lot of us who have seen that happen at cons, it makes so much sense, but it's something that's like, you have to be very intentional about. Like you could go a whole convention and never do that if you don't like see the places to take advantage of that. We actually, this past year, I got an Airbnb with a couple friends because at this point, enough of us are going that we know each other and we're traveling together. And this was the first year that we were like, okay, I think we have a handle on how this works. Here's the list of like panels that aren't just the ones our friends are on, and we're going to go like actually try to meet people. And it totally worked. Mm-hmm. It was great. And it was so cool to see that happen in a whole group of people. And then, we introduced ourselves or each other to our new friends. And it's other than paying for the con, if you're already going, like that's completely free. You're already there. And then depending on the panel, especially if it's small, the people on it appreciate you so much for coming and like being a good audience member. Like that's like eternal devotion sometimes.
Yes, exactly.
Which is so great.
No, and I mean, I think it comes down to like I'm definitely somebody who I'm not an extrovert by nature. Like I'm mostly introverted, but if there's something that I'm really passionate about, then I can approach people and engage them, and I can feel like I have permission to talk to people or feel like I belong. And for me, it was doing the homework of really studying like, what is it that I like about con? Why do I keep going back to Comic-Con? Why do I love the communities that I found that are, fan communities about all the nerdy stuff that I love? And once I kind of felt like I understood that and could share that, then, starting the conversations was easy because all I had to do is talk about this thing that I loved, which happens to be the Kevin Workman Foundation, right? And doing that. And so that's what, gets somebody like me who is a nerd, an extroverted-ish nerd, but perhaps, never could figure out, I could never originally 3, 4, or 5 years ago, visualize that, I could be on a panel or I could moderate a panel like I did one time this year. What would I talk about? Why would I be there? It's just finding that reason to really make Comic-Con into my own thing.
Totally.
And I think that's kind of the secret, right? Is finding what that passion is for you. And then everything else comes out of that.
Yeah, and especially if you are a little more introverted, going to a panel is basically getting like a 50-minute icebreaker.
Yes.
Like you just get to learn about the person you want to talk to, and then like you could not have a better in than that. Being like, I heard you say this, or you care about this thing, I care about that too, or thank you for saying this specific thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the best intro to a conversation, I think, ever, which is so great. That
is a good way to put it. It is definitely an icebreaker in many ways too. It's a great warm up too, right? Because my joke is that I can be extroverted, but I run extroversion in emulation mode, so it takes like twice the memory and twice the CPU power. Like some people on a panel, their mana bar is going up. My mana bar is going down when I'm on a panel, right? So I need to get warmed up, and then I can go have the conversations I need to go, and then I can just go and sit and just be in a crowd and have nobody talk to me like on the exhibit floor. So it's all about knowing your strengths and weaknesses, I guess.
Well, and also for people who are like a little too shy or don't have time, because some panelists like run out of the panel depending on who they are and how busy they are. Like some people are going back to their booth on the floor, but that you can do the same thing online too. Like you can still start those conversations by like mentioning them on Twitter or sending an email. Which I think is great, or it could be a good first try if going up in person is still a little too intimidating.
Yes, and having a friend too, I've noticed, because like at this point, so this is the 6th artist that we've sent to Comic-Con, and every one of the ones that we've had there have kind of handled what is like running the Boston Marathon of conventions, right? They go from maybe small, like a few of the artists that we work with, they'd been to smaller conventions before, but nothing approaches the scale of Comic-Con. I mean, it's the biggest of its kind in the world. So how they navigated that, it's been really interesting to see. Like there's some artists who they bring their significant other or their friend who is definitely like the shopkeeper, social front end of the whole thing, right? And so the artist gets to step back a little bit and doesn't have to be the person that approaches everybody, but then they get introduced by their friend to all of the people that are loving their art, right? And that's what everybody wants, is they want the connection with the artist. They want to meet the person who created this amazing stuff. So sometimes that, gets facilitated by a friend. Sometimes they're really outgoing and they can do all of that, but then their friend is there to handle things like point of sale or traffic control for the other people who are in the booth. So it's all about having a good buddy too, and figuring out how to be that team. And it's been really neat to see how all of of our different artists have kind of figured that out and then gone to other cons. And then once you've been to Comic-Con, man, nothing phases you after that.
You've survived.
You've survived the
big one.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. I think I have noticed that too, with myself selling at conventions. It's so much better to either have whatever, I think that's exactly the right way to put it, whatever complements your natural skills, whether having a hype man or whether having a person who's just exchanging the money or keeping your merch organized, whatever you need that goes along well with what you're naturally good at is such an important partner to have. It makes everything run so much smoother if you can have someone there. I think that's the best advice.
Yeah. And it's, just even things like booth layout and what to put where and how the booth faces the high traffic area and who's going to stand where and what pieces of art you put where. I mean, that stuff really matters. And it's not like there's a book you can go and read that tells you how to do it. A lot of it is just kind of by experience and just learning as you go. And that I think is probably one of the next steps that we're going to try to do at the foundation is, at this point, we've got 6 artists that are kind of like our alumni group, right? They've been to con, they've been to other conventions, they've grown their careers. I'm trying to think of ways that we certainly connect them to each other, but it would be really neat if there was a way that we could grow that experience base or make it more available for other people, because there's a lot of people who go to conventions large and small that might benefit from experience or even just some encouragement about, hey, I was there and it was really hard and you'll get through it, and this is what was hard for me, so this is what you might look at. Just trying to connect people in that community of experience so that they can help each other is something that I'm definitely open to suggestions on how to do that, because at the end of the day, we're just a bunch of nerds who pool our money together to send people to con and to run a small program here. But more experience the better. Always open to suggestions and connections.
Yeah, and having a mentor in whatever, whether it's a very serious one or just someone you can ask questions to, I think makes the biggest difference in. Like, I had one when I first started selling at conventions. There's just so much stuff that you can learn the hard way on your own, but it's very, very nice if you can learn from someone else. And if you are someone who's done it for a while, if you can pass what you've learned on to someone else, I think that is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think just about anybody who's being honest, who's arrived at some level of success is going to at some point or another talk about a very special mentor that they had, or more than one, right, who got them to where they are. Because we all definitely have had that. There's a bunch of friends of mine in the business world who have helped give me suggestions about how to set up the foundation. There's, people that I was connected to in the community who, like, we couldn't do it alone. So being connected with Alonzo and all of his friends at Little Fish Comics, and all kinds of other supporters in the local community who've given us great advice about, how we can help our artists. It takes a village. It truly does. And so that's one of the things that I enjoy the most is making those connections.
Me too. We have very similar ideas of things that we love, which is so awesome. We've been talking a lot about specifically San Diego Comic-Con, but if someone is listening and they either haven't been before or like maybe don't have any plans to make it there, because that's a special beast.
It's a commitment.
Comic-Con. Yeah. Comic-Con is a little crazy. Are there ways that people can get involved in the things that you're working on online or outside of Comic-Con?
Yeah, so there's not much at the moment that we can offer that would be, nationwide or even worldwide, except to say that the artist applications that we take for our sponsored artist program, those applications open up typically in the October-November timeframe. They remain open through the end of the year, and we take applications from anywhere. We've had applications from Eastern Europe. from parts of northern Russia, from the UK. We've actually had an artist last year who came to Comic-Con from Canada. So we're not afraid of paying for travel from some weird off-the-wall places.
Awesome.
We definitely want. My dream is I would love to be able to send like an international, a truly like not from North America artist to Comic-Con one of these years. So that's my first thing is if you know of anybody, if you're a fan of an artist or you are an artist, and it doesn't matter how far away you are from San Diego, please get in touch with us and either let us know about your favorite artists or start a conversation with us about what you're doing and about your art. Don't wait for the application cycle to open up. Just get in touch with us. Find us on Facebook and on Instagram. Also, via email, and we'd love to hear from you. So that's the first one.
Awesome.
Yeah,
and I'll try to remember. But if you send me an email when it goes out, I'll let everyone know too.
Yeah. I'll give you like, all the details on our website and where to contact us and everything like that for for the podcast notes. Cause, it's, I could say, and I definitely would not say no to, well, you can find us and, we have a PayPal donation site set up so we could definitely accept donations. I would love that. People should definitely do that. People should definitely, and in fact, I'm going to ask you once we go off air about Patreon, because I want to look at like different ways for KWF to have this presence where we could have a recurring presence with people, where almost like a subscription where we're giving them something valuable, maybe some the inside scoop on what's going on with our artists, or maybe some discounted prints or art that's available under a Patreon model. Because right now, we solicit people for donations. We get a lot of people at our annual fundraiser, that donate once a year, and that is that is awesome and amazing. But I'm realizing, like, for us to get to the next level of, say, being able to sponsor artists at a West Coast con and an East Coast convention, that's really where I'd like us to go. We're going to need some more money, because that is what makes the world go round. And so not very many people know about us. A lot of people love what we do. I feel like if we got the word out more effectively, we could, build some more support. But if you're moved by what we do, then we will always happily accept a donation, or even just words of encouragement, or even advice about people that we might connect with to try to build up our reach.
That's awesome. What is your social for anyone who didn't catch it?
Yeah, so you can find us. Our website is kevinworkmanfoundation.org. And then on social media, if you look for Kevin Workman Foundation on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, you will find us. I could give you the handle for us, but it's long and cumbersome. Just do a search for us for Kevin Workman Foundation, and you will find us. And please DM us, shoot us an email, shoot us a message. We would love to hear from you, because right now we're very small, grassroots, San Diego, friends and family kind of a thing. But I'm excited to see what would happen if we started reaching out and going nationwide with what we do. I would love to support more cons. We also are at WonderCon, which is in Anaheim.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, it's another West Coast convention, and our scale is much smaller for that. We mostly use it for recruiting. And we haven't been able to cobble together the funds to sponsor a second artist to go to WonderCon yet. We're working on that, but I would love to do, like Dragon Con or something like that. Like, just really move onto the West Coast, from the West Coast to the East Coast, and just start hitting up some of the big cons there too.
That'd be so awesome. I was going to say, I feel like a lot of cool new stuff will be coming from you guys, so everyone should follow along on social, and then they can keep in touch with things like deadlines and who your new artists are and which conventions you'll be at.
Yes.
Because there's a lot going on, and I think that's awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'll promise that, we haven't been as good about being, really active on social media. And because of the way all the algorithms work and everything, the few posts that we have are some awesome posts. Like a friend of mine is she's a freelance journalist. And so this year and last year, she was doing a lot of posts and a lot of like long form videos, interviewing our artists, interviewing people at Con about the themes of, inclusion and diversity, all kinds of just great stuff. But we don't post every day, and we don't do all of the things you need to do in order to drive your posts up to the top of the algorithm. So our stuff kind of gets lost. So, you might not see us very much, but we're active. We just don't know how to be active in all the right ways on social media yet. We're figuring it out.
Totally understand. Yeah, it's a struggle. So I hear you there. But I think all of the stuff is so cool, and I'm so excited to see what comes next for you guys. And we'll definitely have to chat again as you grow and as things are happening, because I think this is like the coolest foundation ever.
Oh, thanks. It's it's been a learning experience and very, very humbling to see like what to us is, it's a labor of love. It's somewhat half-assed. We're doing it in our spare time. We all have day jobs, but just doing a little bit that is imperfect, but has a lot of passion behind it, is generating a lot of response and a lot of support and a lot of great conversations and encouragement from people like you. So thank you for that. We'll keep it up. We'll definitely keep you in the loop.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Paul. I'm so excited about everything, and I hope you get a lot of new followers after this.
You are so welcome, and I'm super excited to get introduced into the sartorial geek community and hope to hear from all of you guys again soon in the future.
Yeah. So everyone, go follow the Kevin Workman Foundation. And if you are an artist or an artist, either send them an email or a DM or tag a friend in their posts. And if you go to Comic-Con, please go to their booth and meet their newest artist every year.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Paul. Have a great week, everyone. That's it. Have an awesome week and stay nerdy.
Thank you.